Guys, welcome to the Trash Picture Show. I am back with another top 10 favourite video game titles, and considering I've already done the PS1, I suppose it's logical I move on to the PS2. So these are my top 10 favourite PlayStation 2 video games. And without further ado, let's get this video rolling.
10.
At number 10, we have Godand. This is from Capcom, and this is a fucking lunatic of a game. Essentially, you play a character whose arm was cut off by demons and replaced with a god hand. And essentially, you just go around the place punching demons. That's all she wrote. It's a fantastic and fun game. Bonkers fighting moves, crazy combos, and stuff you definitely wouldn't get away with in a video game today. If you haven't played this one, check it out. It is so fun. And it's just absolutely fucking bonkers and bizarre. So yeah, Godand easily gets the number 10 spot.
9.
At number 9, we have Soulcalibur Tree. And let me tell you, this kicked ass. I absolutely adore the Soulcalibur franchise. And yes, there are far more superior games on the later consoles. But for the time, Soulcalibur Tree was fucking amazing. Graphically, it was gorgeous, the character roster was expansive, and it was a really good story mode. They also introduced the character editor where you could create your own characters, and I think for me at the time this was the pinnacle of fighting games. Say what you will about Tekken, but I absolutely adored Soulcalibur 3 on the PlayStation 2, and that is why it gets the number 9 spot.
8.
At number 8, before Borderlands or Overwatch, if you wanted to play some kooky characters in a first-person shooter, you played Time Splitters. This game had some of the best shooting mechanics and one of the most fun multiplayer systems at the time. Honest to God, this was so fucking fun. The list and design of the characters alone were filled with imagination. The weapons were cool. The level layout was cool. It was just a fantastic game with amazing fidelity, and if you wanted to play a shooter with your friends at 3 o'clock in the morning and a couple of beers, there was no better game to try than Time Splitters. Yes, the latter games added some new stuff, but the original Time Splitters for me is absolutely fun, and you cannot own a PlayStation 2 without having a copy of Time Splitters, and that is why it gets the number 8 spot.
7.
At number 7, we have The Tin from Konami and Black Label Games. This is essentially a sequel to the 1982 John Carpenter classic, and you play the head of a rescue team sent to Arctic Outpost 31 to find out what happened. Essentially, they tried to develop a trust mechanic to put you into the feel of the movie. It works in some ways, and in some ways it doesn't. The idea was good, but in practice and execution, it doesn't really play out. What essentially you get is a third-person shooter that has kind of squad-based mechanics, and by and large, that does work, but the trust mechanic, it doesn't always hit, and it doesn't always land. But that said, if you're a fan of the movie, this is definitely a game to check out.
6.
Before Gears of War, Rogue Trooper was the one that pioneered the cover mechanic. Yes, this game, based on the character from the 2000 AD comic book series, is pretty cool and pretty revolutionary for the time. It essentially creates the cover-based mechanic we all know and love today. And you're put into the army boots of the titular Rogue Trooper, battling his way through New Earth in order to survive. Again, nowadays, a third-person shooter is nothing new, but for the time, with the cover mechanic, this made Rogue Trooper a very unique game and the perfect addition to your PS2 collection, easily getting the number 6 spot.
5.
Long before we had John Marston roaming the plains of the West, we had Gun. This is a unique PlayStation 2 title from Neversoft, best known for the Tony Hawk's games. They chanced their hand at an open world Wild West game long before the Red Dead Redemption series came to the later generation consoles. Ironically, the precursor to Redemption, Red Dead Revolver, was out at the same time. But if you ask me, this is the far superior game with an open world, not as expansive as the newer games, but still pretty awesome, with an amazing voice cast from Thomas Jane, Chris Christopherson, Lance Henriksen, Brad Dourif, and Tom Skerritt. Again, this is an awesome game, and a lot of elements that we see in Red Dead Redemption, we can see in Gun. A very large open world expansive area, good gunplay, and lots of different environments and towns to explore. This makes Gun a fantastic addition to anyone's PlayStation 2 collection.
4,
At number 4, we have one of the very few standalone Predator games until Predator Hunting Grounds came along. This is Predator Concrete Jungle. And there is aspects about this game I love, and there's aspects I hate. What I love is the story and character design. Scarface is a badass Predator. He made it onto my list of top 10 favorite badass Youches. And yeah, this game shows why. He is hunting the ancestors of those who dishonored him centuries ago. And the best way to describe this is essentially Crackdown with a Predator. You cut your way through the city of Neonopolis and hunt different gangs and eventually come up against some brainwashed predators who you must put out of their misery. This game does kick arse in a lot of ways with certain collectibles, missions and enemies, but it is also very problematic in that the camera is dog shit. The camera will get you killed more than any foe in this game, as it's never kept in a fixed position and you can be jumped by enemies so very easily as a result. Again, not a perfect game, but being a Predator game, I cannot but love this title. And if you are a fan of the Predator series, this is worth picking up if you have a PlayStation 2.
3,
At number 3, we have Rockstar, who are no strangers to controversy, and Manhunt is no exception. This, I think the best way to describe it is stealth-based survival horror. Puts you in the shoes of death row inmate Cash, who is snatched from death row and put into a manhunt, an online manhunt where viewers can watch as he slaughters his way through a city filled with sadistic bastards. This game caused a lot of trouble when it came out, and yeah, I can see why. Now, the PlayStation 2 does censor the kills, but the implications are still incredibly gory and grim. And yeah, it's a vicious game. You can use shards of glass, plastic bags, bricks. You can dispatch your foes in lots of visceral ways. Granted, they don't show it, but still, the implication is very violent. And it's got a good voice cast with Brian Cox as the lead of the sick director of this online snuff movie. If you are a fan of violent games and love Rockstar's catalogue, then Manhunt is a worthy addition to your PlayStation collection.
2,
At number 2, we have a game based on one of my favourite Marvel characters, The Punisher. This game came out as kind of a tie-in to the Thomas Jane movie, and as a result, Jane actually voices the Punisher in the game. And by Christ, this game gives Manhunt a run for its money. If you ask me, it's far more violent and has a lot more grisly and interesting kills than Manhunt. Obviously, you're playing as Frank Castle in this third-person shooter, but when you get your hands on a crook or a villain, you can dispatch them in a variety of grisly ways, be it gun tension, strangling, putting their head through a window, feeding the poor bastard to a snake. The choice is yours, and it's great grisly fun. There's also a nice addition of other characters from Marvel's pantheon, including Nick Fury, Black Widow and Iron Man, and a whole host of other Marvel villains. If you're a third-person shooter fan or a Punisher fan in itself, this would not be something you'd overlook if you had a PlayStation 2. This would be a recommended purchase, and as a result, I love this game, and it definitely gets the number 2 spot for me.
1,
And at number 1, we go back to the 80s with Grand Theft Auto Vice City. For me, I think this is the best Grand Theft Auto game on the PlayStation 2. A lot of people would argue San Andreas, but there's just something about the 80s aesthetic that wins this game over for me. Particularly the voice cast. You have the late great Ray Liotta and Dennis Hopper, along with Burt Reynolds, Kevin McKidd, Jenna Jameson, Fairuza Balk. The list goes on. The mechanics of the driving is a lot tighter than GTA 3, and you have a lot more selection of vehicles such as motorbikes, mopeds, boats and aircraft. Again, everything GTA 3 did, Vice City does a million times better. I love this game, it kicks arse, and if you don't have this and you call yourself a PlayStation 2 fan, well, you can't call yourself a PlayStation 2 fan if you ask me. So guys, they are my top 10 favourite PlayStation 2 games. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below, and yeah, have a good one. Take care. Bye now.